Friends, welcome this evening to our Good Friday service of silence and sorrow and contemplation. We're grateful that you have taken this time to gather together tonight. And just so you are aware, there's no bulletin tonight, as I will be guiding us through this service. Kind of the setup of tonight's liturgy is going to be, we'll share a few things, I'll read a few things, and then we'll have moments of silence in 3-minute intervals to symbolize the 3 hours that Jesus suffered on the cross before he died. And during our times of silence, do not worry about controlling your thoughts or blocking out any of the sounds around us that may occur. In a world that is filled with so much noise, silence can be uncomfortable and startling, but it can also be healing and revelatory. If the time feels long, hear that as a prompting from God to open yourself up even more. Tonight in this silence, we will meet God in new ways. In this time, you are invited to hold your body and soul in whatever ways you find to be most comfortable. Listen to your breath. Inhale, exhale. Maybe put a hand on your heart. And be open to how the Spirit may move your soul. We will be prompted into our silence throughout the evening with the ringing of my singing bowl, so you'll hear a nice ding. And then at the end of that 3-minute time, we will sing together a verse of "Were You There When They Crucified My Lord?" So I'm going to rely on our choir folks to help me out here, but we're going to sing the first verse mostly throughout the service, and then we'll end with the second verse. But for those who might need a little bit of reminding how this goes, it's, "Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they crucified my Lord?" So friends, as we begin this evening, I'm going to invite us into this space. May we fully enter this space of silence and sorrow. And I invite you in this first 3 minutes to think about this question: what sorrows, yours or the world's, are you bringing into this space tonight? What sorrows, yours or the world's, are you bringing into this space tonight? Let us join together in singing. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Levi, just to make it a little bit easier on everyone's eyes, next time let's just do one light at a time. So not all of them at once, just one for each time. Thanks. So friends, as we enter into the final moments of the life of Christ, we seek not to rush to the resurrection, but to sit at the foot of the cross, a place where none of us wants to be, but a space many of us know all too well. So here we are, gathered together, in the discomfort and disruption, in the grief and the sorrow, in the anger and the anguish. As we gather, we also know that the sorrows of the world are created and reinforced by individuals and communities, with action or inaction, with subtlety or subconsciousness, with intent or impunity. For all the ways that we have added to the sorrow of ourselves and others, we do lament and confess. As we enter into this next time of silence, let us reflect on this question: how have I, or how have we, added to the sorrow around us, personally, communally, or globally? Again, how have I, or how have we, added to the sorrow around us, personally, communally, or globally? Let us join together in singing. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Friends, we are forgiven for even our worst thoughts and deeds. We are forgiven not as humans forgive with limit, but as only God is able to forgive, with the Holy One's unimaginable limitlessness. For this we are grateful, and I invite you to say with me, all God's people say together, Amen. Amen. Tonight we will be hearing the final hours of Christ's life from the Gospel of Matthew. This comes from Matthew chapter 27. And after each reading, there will be a 3-minute moment of silence, and I will invite you to ponder the question, how is this sorrow known today? We will not be sharing aloud, but you are invited to ponder that question, and the Spirit's words that come to you and thoughts that come to you are for you and you alone. So let us now hear from Matthew chapter 27, verses 27 through 31. Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the governor's headquarters, and they gathered the whole cohort around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and after twisting some thorns into a crown, they put it on his head. They put a reed in his right hand and knelt before him and mocked him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" They spat on him and took the reed and struck him on the head. After mocking him, they stripped him of the robe and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him away to crucify him. Let us now reflect. How is this sorrow known to us today? Let us now join together in singing. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Ooh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Our second reading comes from Matthew chapter 27, verses 32 through 44. As they went out, they came upon a man from Cyrene named Simon. They compelled this man to carry Jesus' cross. And when they came to a place called Golgotha, which means place of a skull, they offered Jesus wine to drink, mixed with gall. But when he tasted it, he would not drink it. And when they had crucified Jesus, they divided his clothes among them by casting lots. Then they sat down there and kept watch over him. Over his head they put the charge against him, which read, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." Then 2 bandits were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by derided him, shaking their heads and saying, you who would destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross." In the same way, the chief priests also, along with the scribes and elders, were mocking him, saying, "He saved others. He cannot save himself. He is the King of Israel. Let him come down from the cross now, and we will believe in him. He trusts in God. Let God deliver him now, if he wants to. For he said, I am God's son." The bandits who were crucified with him also taunted him in the same way. Let us now take some time to reflect. How is this sorrow known in our world today? Let us join together in singing. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Our final reading tonight comes from Matthew chapter 27, verses 45 through 50. From noon on, darkness came over the whole land until 3 p.m. And about 3 o'clock, Jesus cried with a loud voice, "Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani?" That is, my God, why have you forsaken me? When some of the bystanders heard it, they said, "This man is calling for Elijah." At once one of them ran and got a sponge, filled it with sour wine, put it on a stick, and gave it to him to drink. But the other said, "Wait, let us see whether Elisha will come to him." Then Jesus cried again with a loud voice and breathed his last. We are invited to reflect now on how is this sorrow known in our world today. Let us join together in singing. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Levi, I'm just going to invite you, will you please just bring up the floodlights, the very back ones? Thank you. We have heard the word. We have experienced, at least in our hearts, Jesus' death on the cross. And so as a response to that, we are invited now to bring our own sorrows and sufferings of the world to the cross. These can be personal, these can be communal, these can be global, for no matter the level of pain, we know that God can hold it all. And because we know that sorrow comes in many forms, you will have three possible ways tonight to express your sorrows and sufferings. You will be invited to come forward as we sing together the second verse of Were You There When They Crucified My Lord? And you can choose to either extinguish a candle. You could take one of the stones that we have been using to help us think about this Lenten season and drop it on the cross as a way of us turning what we have used to celebrate Jesus' entry into us betraying Jesus this day. Or you may choose to come and find a nail. There are a couple of hammers up here, and you are invited to hammer a nail into the cross that has been made. I do ask that if you want to drive it all the way through, go for this middle part. If you're down or on this part, on this bigger lumber, don't drive it all the way through or you'll nail it to our bench here. So with that, and if you do not wish to come forward, let me know. I can bring you a stone or a nail, whichever you would prefer. So as you come forward and you leave your sorrow, you are invited to speak it aloud if you wish, or you can simply hold it in your heart. Again, if you would prefer to remain in your seat, just let me know, and I can bring a nail or a stone to you to hold in your hands as we pray and sing. After everyone has come forward or we have had an appropriate time to engage in these acts, another chime will be rung, and we will end the time as we started, in silence. And then after that 3 minutes of silence, the chime will be rung 3 times for the 3 hours that Christ was on the cross. And at the end of the 3rd chime, I will ask that Levi completely darken this room. This space will become entirely dark, or as dark as we can make it. And then we will leave in silence. So let us now offer our sorrows to God. And as you make your way to the cross, if you are at home, perhaps draw a cross that you can look upon in this time But now I invite you to join me in singing the second verse of Were You There When They Crucified My Lord? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? As you come forward. Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Would you like me to bring you a nail or a stone?
Sure.
She's going to, okay. Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Oh, sometimes it causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? Let us now contemplate for 3 minutes.